December 7, 1941, 7:55 a.m. Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The morning is calm. The Pacific looks almost glassy. Sailors move lazily across the decks, some half awake, some thinking about breakfast, others counting the days until shore leave. A bugle sounds in the distance. Nothing feels urgent. Nothing feels dangerous. Then the sky explodes. Engines scream overhead, low, fast, unfamiliar. The first bomb tears into Battleship Row, metal ripping apart like paper. Fireballs bloom. Smoke rises in thick black columns. Men dive for cover, some frozen in shock, others already bleeding. Within minutes, America is at war. But this moment, this sudden violence, did not come out of nowhere. It came after years of waiting. Years of watching. Years of choosing not to fight. To understand why America stayed out of World War II for so long, you have to go back, not to Pearl Harbor, but to a different war in a different generation. A war that never truly ended in the American mind. November 11, 1918. The guns fall silent in Europe. World War I is over. America has helped tip the balance, but the victory feels hollow. Over 116,000 Americans are dead. Millions more across Europe lie in unmarked graves or return home broken, physically and mentally. Back in the United States, parades fill the streets, flags wave, but beneath the celebration something darker settles in. A question lingers in the air. Was it worth it? Veterans return home with haunted eyes. Families bury sons who never saw combat victory, only mud, gas, and screaming trenches. Newspapers begin publishing stories of profiteers, of arms dealers, of secret agreements that pulled America into a European bloodbath that many now believe was never truly their war. The word spreads quietly at first, then loudly. Never again. By the 1920s and early 1930s, this belief hardens into policy. America turns inward. The oceans, once highways of opportunity, become protective moats. Europe's problems are Europe's responsibility. America has sacrificed enough. You can feel it in Congress. You can hear it in radio broadcasts. You can see it in the polls. Isolationism isn't fringe, it's mainstream. It crosses party lines. It defines an era. Then comes 1929. The stock market crashes, banks collapse, jobs vanish overnight, breadlines stretch for blocks. The Great Depression doesn't just cripple the economy, it reshapes national priorities. Survival comes first. Everything else comes second. By the early 1930s, nearly 1 in 4 Americans is unemployed. Families lose homes. Farmers watch crops rot because they can't sell them. Under these conditions, foreign wars feel distant, almost irrelevant. President Franklin D. Roosevelt understands the danger overseas, but he also understands his country. Push too hard toward war and the nation might fracture. The memory of World War I is still raw. The pain is still personal. So instead of intervention, America chooses distance. Congress passes the Neutrality Acts, laws designed to prevent the U.S. from being dragged into another global conflict. No selling weapons to warring nations. No loans. No entanglements. It's a legal wall between America and the chaos beyond its shores. And for a time it works. But the world doesn't stay quiet. In 1933, Adolf Hitler rises to power in Germany. Rearmament begins almost immediately. The Treaty of Versailles is openly defied. In Italy, Mussolini dreams of empire. In Japan, militarists look south and west, hungry for resources and dominance. Europe edges closer to war with every passing year. America watches. You can almost picture it, Roosevelt at his desk, maps spread out, reports piling up. He sees what's coming. He knows neutrality won't stop bombs from falling on London or tanks from rolling into Poland. But he also knows the limits of his power. So America begins to help quietly. Not soldiers, not declarations, But ships supplies food, fuel. Programs like Cash and Carry, and later Lend-Lease, allow the U.S. to support Britain and other allies without officially entering the war. Destroyers are traded for base rights. Convoys cross the Atlantic under the constant threat of German U-boats. It's a delicate balancing act, helping without fighting, supporting without committing. And still, most Americans support it because it feels safe, controlled, distant. But distance is an illusion. By 1940, France has fallen. Paris is occupied. Britain stands alone, bombed nightly by the Luftwaffe. The Atlantic is no longer a barrier, it's a battlefield. American ships are already being stalked, already being attacked. The line between neutrality and war is thinning, stretching, fraying. And somewhere across the Pacific, Japan is watching too. Watching America hesitate. Watching America delay. Watching America believe it still has time. Time that is about to run out. Because while America debates, plans are already in motion. Far from Washington, far from Congress, far from the illusion of safety provided by two vast oceans. And the next sound the United States will hear won't be a speech, or a vote, or a warning. It will be the sound of engines over Pearl Harbor. Summer 1941, Washington, D.C. Ceiling fans hum softly in government offices. Papers slide across polished desks. Outside, the Capitol moves at its usual pace, cars rolling past monuments, clerks heading home, radios murmuring news from a world on fire. But inside the White House, the tension is unmistakable. Franklin D. Roosevelt sits forward in his chair, cigarette holder tilted upward, eyes fixed on a map of the Atlantic and the Pacific. Red pins mark German advances. Blue pins trace American shipping lanes. The oceans that once promised safety now look dangerously narrow. America is still officially neutral. But neutrality is becoming harder to defend, politically and physically. In the Atlantic, German U-boats hunt relentlessly. They surface at night, black silhouettes against moonlit waves, firing torpedoes at anything that feeds Britain's survival. Food, fuel, ammunition. And American ships are increasingly caught in the middle. Destroyers escort convoys deeper into contested waters. Sonar pings echo through steel hulls. Sailors grip rails in freezing spray, knowing that one flash beneath the waves could mean instant death. In September 1941, the U.S. destroyer USS Greer is shadowed by a German submarine. Shots are exchanged. No declaration of war follows, but the message is clear. The war is already touching America. Roosevelt responds carefully. He orders the Navy to shoot on sight if threatened. It's a quiet escalation, wrapped in defensive language. The public is uneasy but still resistant to full war. Polls tell the story. Americans support helping Britain. They support defending shipping. But sending sons to die overseas? Not yet. Meanwhile, across the Pacific, another storm is forming. Japan has been at war with China since 1937, carving through cities, committing atrocities, consuming resources at an unsustainable rate. Oil is the lifeblood of its empire, and Japan has almost none of its own. For years, it has relied on American oil. That dependence becomes leverage. In 1940, after Japan occupies French Indochina, the United States responds with economic pressure. Scrap metal exports are cut. Aviation fuel is restricted. Then comes the decisive blow. July 1941. The U.S. freezes Japanese assets. Oil shipments stop. For Japan's leaders, this is not diplomacy, it's strangulation. Without oil, Japan's navy grinds to a halt. Its aircraft sit useless on runways. The empire faces a stark choice: withdraw from conquered territories or seize what it needs by force. High above Tokyo, behind closed doors, military planners begin to speak openly about war with the United States. Not because they want it, because they believe they have no other option. Back in America, the public sees only fragments of this reality. Newspapers focus on Europe. Radio broadcasts discuss Hitler, Churchill, the Blitz. The Pacific feels distant, secondary, safe. After all, Hawaii is over 2,000 miles from California. The Philippines are even farther. The ocean still feels like protection. And yet, American intelligence intercepts troubling signals. Japanese negotiations stall. Diplomatic language grows colder. Japanese carriers vanish from known ports. Something is moving. But warnings are vague, timelines uncertain. No one can say exactly where or when the blow will fall. And so life goes on. Sailors in Hawaii train as usual. Radar operators track routine flights. Officers attend social events. The idea of a direct attack on American soil still feels unthinkable. After all, America has stayed out of the war. Why would anyone attack a nation that hasn't fired the first shot? Then comes December 6, 1941. In Washington, Roosevelt reads the latest diplomatic messages from Tokyo. The tone is ominous. Negotiations are effectively over. War feels close, but still abstract. He retires for the night uneasy, but not alarmed enough to wake the nation. Across the Pacific, Japanese carrier groups slice through dark waters in total radio silence. Deck crews move with rehearsed precision. Pilots study maps one last time. Each man knows his target. Each man knows there is no turning back. They are not sailing toward a military base in a war zone. They are sailing toward America. December 7, 1941, 7:48 a.m. Radar operators on Oahu detect incoming aircraft. They report it briefly, but the signal is dismissed. Likely American planes, nothing to worry about. Minutes later, the first bombs fall. And in that instant, the illusion shatters. The distance, the neutrality, the belief that waiting could keep America safe. All of it disappears in fire and smoke. But the full cost of that waiting, the price of delay, is only just beginning to reveal itself. Because Pearl Harbor is not just an attack. It is a reckoning. And what follows will pull America into a war unlike anything it has ever faced. December 7, 1941, Pearl Harbor, 8:10 a.m. Battleship Row is a wall of fire. The USS Arizona erupts in a thunderous explosion as a bomb punches through her deck and ignites the forward magazine. The blast lifts the ship out of the water. Men vanish instantly, over 1,000 lives erased in seconds. A column of black smoke coils into the sky, visible for miles. Nearby, sailors scramble across burning decks, shoes slipping on oil-slick steel. Some dive into the harbor, gasping as flames spread across the water itself. Others keep fighting, manning guns, pulling wounded friends from wreckage, refusing to stop even as the second wave arrives. The attack is relentless, precise, devastating. Japanese aircraft roar overhead, red suns flashing on their wings. Torpedoes tear into hulls that were never meant to face battle in port. Airfields are strafed. American planes are destroyed before they can even lift off. In less than 2 hours, the Pacific Fleet is crippled. And with it, America's last illusion of distance. Across the country, the news spreads like a shockwave. Radios crackle to life. Families gather around kitchen tables. Voices tremble as broadcasters struggle to keep pace with the reports. Pearl Harbor has been bombed. Casualties are heavy. This is not a drill. In New York, traffic slows as drivers pull over to listen. In factories, machines fall silent. In small towns and cities alike, a single realization settles in. The war has come to us. Isolationism collapses almost overnight. The debates that once dragged on for years, should we fight? Should we stay out? Is this our war? Vanish in an instant. The nation that once feared another foreign entanglement now demands action. Men line up at recruiting stations before official orders are even issued. Newspapers print extra editions with headlines screaming war. American flags appear in windows, on porches, in hands. Anger replaces hesitation. Shock hardens into resolve. December 8, 1941, Washington, D.C. Congress is packed. The galleries overflow. The air is thick with tension as Franklin D. Roosevelt is wheeled into the chamber. He looks tired, older than he did just days before, but his voice is steady. Yesterday, December 7, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The words cut through the room. Roosevelt doesn't ask for debate. He doesn't plead for support. He states a fact. America is at war. Within minutes, Congress votes. The decision is nearly unanimous. One dissenting vote. That's all that remains of the isolationist era. War is declared on Japan. 3 days later, Germany and Italy declare war on the United States. The global conflict America spent years trying to avoid has now found it completely. But as the nation mobilizes, a harsher truth begins to emerge. Waiting had consequences. The U.S. military, though large on paper, is unprepared for global war. Equipment is outdated. Training is rushed. Bases across the Pacific are vulnerable. The Philippines and American territory are dangerously exposed. And Japan moves fast. Within hours of Pearl Harbor, Japanese forces strike Guam, Wake Island, and the Philippines. American and Filipino troops fight bravely, but supplies are scarce and air support is limited. By early 1942, the situation is desperate. General Douglas MacArthur, watching Japanese forces close in, is forced to make an agonizing decision: to leave the Philippines behind. "I shall return," he promises. But for thousands of soldiers and civilians, the weight has already turned into captivity, suffering, and death. In Europe, Hitler's declaration of war brings a new reality. America is no longer choosing where to fight. It must fight everywhere. Factories convert overnight. Car plants become tank lines. Shipyards run around the clock. Women flood into industrial jobs, riveting steel and assembling aircraft in numbers never seen before. The sleeping giant awakens. But awakening takes time. And time is something America no longer has. Because while the nation rallies, while speeches are made and flags raised, Allied forces are retreating on nearly every front. The Axis powers hold the momentum. The question is no longer why America stayed out of the war. The question is whether it has waited too long to stop what comes next. And the answer will be written in blood, on beaches, in jungles, and in skis across the world. Early 1942, the Pacific and Europe. America is officially at war, but war does not pause to let newcomers catch up. In the Pacific, Japanese forces surge forward with terrifying speed. Hong Kong falls. Singapore, once called the Gibraltar of the East, collapses in a matter of days. The Philippines are cut off, bombed relentlessly, starved of reinforcements that never arrive. On the Bataan Peninsula, American and Filipino troops dig shallow foxholes into hard earth. Malaria spreads. Food rations shrink to handfuls of rice. Ammunition runs low. Men fight on skeletal strength, knowing help is not coming. When Bataan finally falls, the survivors are forced onto the Bataan Death March, a brutal procession under a burning sun. Thousands die along the road. It is one of the first grim receipts of delay. America is now paying in lives for time it once believed it had. In Washington, the reality sets in with crushing weight. For years, planners assumed America could choose when and where to fight. That industrial strength and distance would compensate for hesitation. But war doesn't wait for readiness. It exploits weakness. The U.S. Navy has lost battleships it spent decades building. The Army is expanding at a frantic pace, training millions of men almost from scratch. Officers who once drilled peacetime units now command forces across 2 oceans. Mistakes are inevitable. Convoys are sunk faster than they can be protected. U-boats prowl the American coastline itself, sinking ships within sight of shore. For the first time since the War of 1812, enemy submarines operate freely near U.S. cities. The homeland is no longer untouchable. And yet, something else is happening beneath the chaos. Factories roar to life like never before. Steel pours. Assembly lines stretch endlessly. Aircraft roll out by the thousands. Liberty ships slide into the water faster than the enemy can sink them. This is America's true strength, but it takes time to unleash. Time that Europe does not have. In 1942, the Soviet Union bleeds at Stalingrad. Britain strains under bombing and blockade. The Allies are holding, but barely. Every month America delayed before entering the war is now measured in destroyed cities and mass graves. Historians will later ask the question quietly, then louder. If America had entered earlier, could some of this have been prevented? Could France have been saved? Could millions of lives have been spared? Could the war have ended sooner? There are no easy answers, only consequences. By mid-1942, American forces begin to push back. At Midway, U.S. carriers ambush Japan's fleet, sinking 4 carriers in a single day. The tide in the Pacific finally shifts. In North Africa, American troops land for the first time against German forces, inexperienced but determined. These victories matter. But they come after staggering losses magnified by years of hesitation. Every American soldier stepping onto foreign soil now carries the weight of a delayed decision. They are not just fighting the enemy in front of them, they are fighting to regain lost time. And they know it. You can hear it in their letters home. You can see it in their exhausted faces. You can feel it in the urgency of every assault. There is no more waiting. By the end of 1942, America is fully committed, industrially, militarily, emotionally. The isolationist era is gone, buried beneath casualty lists and burning ships. But the question still lingers in the background, unspoken yet impossible to ignore. Did staying out of the war protect America? Or did it only make the price of entry higher? The final answer won't come from politicians or historians. It will come from the battlefield still ahead. From Normandy. From Iwo Jima. From the skis over Germany and Japan. And only when the war finally ends will America truly understand what waiting cost and what it nearly lost. June 6, 1944, 6:30 a.m. Normandy, France. The ramps slam down. Cold seawater rushes into landing craft as American soldiers surge forward under a sky torn apart by artillery and machine gun fire. Men fall before reaching the sand. Others keep running, carrying rifles, radios, and the weight of everything that led them here. This is D-Day. This is what waiting finally becomes. 2.5 years after Pearl Harbor, and nearly 5 years after the war began in Europe, America arrives in force on the continent it once tried to avoid. For the men on Omaha Beach, there is no politics, no isolationism, no debate, only survival, only forward. Behind this moment lies an industrial miracle. By 1944, American factories are producing war material at a scale the world has never seen. Tanks, trucks, bombers, ships, enough to arm not just the United States, but its allies as well. This is the power America held back for years. Now it is unleashed without restraint. But as Allied forces push inland, the evidence of delay is everywhere. Ruined villages, mass graves, entire cities flattened. The war they entered late is one that has already consumed millions of lives. Soldiers move past French civilians who have lived under occupation since 1940. Children stare silently at columns of troops. Old men nod, not with celebration, but with exhaustion. Liberation has come. But it came late. In the Pacific, the cost is even more brutal. Island by island, American forces fight an enemy prepared to die rather than surrender. Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Saipan, Iwo Jima, Okinawa. Each battle is a meat grinder. The Japanese defenses are deep, hardened by years of preparation. Caves, bunkers, tunnels, positions that might have been weaker if confronted earlier. Instead, the war has matured, grown deadlier. Marines advance under mortar fire, flamethrowers slung over their shoulders. Navy corpsmen crawl through sand and ash to reach the wounded. The ground is soaked with blood. Every island feels like a punishment for time lost. By 1945, the end is visible, but distant. American bombers fill the skies over Germany, then Japan. Firestorms erase entire neighborhoods. Civilians pay the price for decisions made years earlier by leaders on all sides. And finally, the war closes with a force no one fully understands until it's too late. Hiroshima, Nagasaki. The conflict that America once tried to stay out of ends with weapons that changed the world forever. When the fighting stops, the numbers are staggering. Over 60 million dead worldwide. Cities erased. Empires collapsed. America emerges as a global superpower, but also as a nation transformed. The belief that distance can guarantee safety is gone. The oceans no longer feel wide enough. The question that haunted the early years of the war returns one last time. Did waiting keep America safe, or did it simply delay the inevitable? History does not offer clean answers, but it does leave a lesson written in fire and steel. Neutrality can buy time, but time always demands a price. And when America finally paid, it paid in full.